and welcome to my YouTube channel. Hello, I'm Frankie, also known as Francesca Rowan-Plowden, but you can call me Frankie. And I am an interior designer and mother of 4 boys. Now, why am I doing a YouTube channel, I hear you ask? Well, it's because I love to chat, and I love to chat about interiors and homeware and decor and fashion and lifestyle and family and sort of things that I discover and, out and about. So if you like those things as well and you like to chat too, then I think we could be friends. Even if you just like to listen, that's great too. And I want this to be a conversation between us. So if you have anything in particular that you'd like me to chat about, then please do put it in the comments. And I want to create a community for people who love all those things as well. So follow me and subscribe below. In this house, there's always something to do or something going wrong. So I'm going to share those with you along with some handy tips and ideas that you can use at home as well. I'm going to be redoing some of the rooms. I'm going to start off with the snug, but also I'm going to do tablescapes, for example, Easter and Christmas and dinner parties, but getting the garden ready for summer. And I'm going to be taking you out and about with me in a sort of vlog style to the events and family things I do, as well as going to exhibitions and just things that I think are interesting and nice to share. There will also be a separate series on the channel, which is Frankie's Fixes. Now, if you have an interior design dilemma which you would like me to help you solve, then you've just got to register on the link below, and I will do a mood board, come up with a lovely design, as well as a really practical and affordable shopping list, which you can then take home and recreate my dilemma solving design for you. And if there's anything you want me to chat about, then please put it in the comments below, because I want this to be a conversation and a community for us all. So if you want to join me on this journey, please see the link below and subscribe, and we'll go on a YouTube journey together. And I was like, I can do that. And if tables could talk, doors. This is Gracie, there's cups, much like my garlic bread dish for one and my sweet corn dish for one. They're totally impractical. So welcome to the kitchen. I get a lot of questions about the kitchen on Instagram. So I thought I'd start off. Each week I will show a room in the house, which some of them I've started doing up, some of them I haven't. But this room I think I've spent the most sort of attention on. Although what I will say is the units and this sort of area here was already there when we bought the house. But what I did is I kind of incorporated the dining room more into it, where before it was quite an empty blank space. The walls were actually the same color as this color here, which is a slightly grey off-white colour, which I think I'm going to change because it's a little bit cold now. And then I repainted the dining area, and partly to make it have a different sense of kind of occasion. So you have like the kitchen, prep, cooking area, and then you have the social family area. And I always think if you can fit them, it's really nice to have chairs or like a little sofa or just one armchair in a kitchen, because then it makes it a social space and a reception area, as well as it just being a practical utilitarian space. We went to Morocco and I just sort of fell in love with the colours there. And I was like, I want to have this sort of Moroccan feel. And ironically, the paint colour is actually called Marrakesh, and it's made by Fenwick and Tilbrook. And I knew it would look really nice with the black. It's often quite nice of sort of reddy pinky tones to put them with a darker colour like the black in the crystal doors. So repainted the room, and then I had this mirror. One thing about hanging a very heavy mirror is it's good to put a support, and my dad put this kind of bit of wood here with the brackets, and that holds it up. So I was like, right, let's put the mirror there. It was leaning against the wall for a while. And then I was like, I really need a side table. And A, this is really practical because I've got crockery in there. But B, it kind of gives like a feature, almost like it is a fireplace here, or sort of whether you'd have an oven or an Aga or something. And I found this in HomeSense, and it slowly just started all coming together with the colours. I'd like to say that a lot of thought went into it, but it was more like finding things. I did nearly buy a French antique patisserie table, which was like the whole length but it came out really far. And one thing you've got to consider with dining spaces is the distance that people pull the chairs out. And so I always sort of think like that when putting furniture into a kitchen or a dining space. So if I'd had this big thing here, then whoever sat there, you couldn't walk by. So this was perfect because it was really narrow. I love plants. I'm not very good at looking after them. Sort of, it's like they tell me that. So one side's sort of dying and the other side, I'm still here. But you know, it reminds me, look, there's all the dead leaves that I haven't removed. But anyway, so the plants kind of made the sort of, I guess, sort of slightly tropical feel, but also it's just a really nice way of furnishing a room. And you can have fake plants if you're like me, you're not very good looking after them. There are some fake plants dotted around the house, and if you mix them up, you don't know which ones are fake and which are real. And then the other thing I was really inspired by was seeing these beautiful plates and baskets on the wall in Marrakesh. And I was like, I can do that. And I found these baskets, they were really inexpensive. And I've just sewn a little bit of thread through, you can see in this one, I ran out of the right colour. So it's actually just got a yellow piece of thread there. But I sewed it through. And then you literally bang a nail in and you hang a basket up. And I think these are like £4. And you've got really nice wall art, really inexpensively. And it makes that sort of eclectic kind of travelled look. And then also, the other thing, when I bought the sideboard, the lamps, I get asked a lot of questions about these lamps. These were also in Home Sense, and sometimes you just find gems. They are marble and they weigh a ton. But I think because they were so heavy and awkward and not easy to carry home, they were like £30, but they had a very white, modern paper shade, which was sort of battered, and also I think that's why they were being reduced. But I found these shades, and you just mix and match, and that's a really easy way of doing a quick home update. It's just to change your lampshades. And if you go to places, often in charity shops, people have they have lampshades, but also TK Maxx and Home Sense. So those are the lampshades. The chairs, that one's seen slightly better days. Be careful when sitting on that one. But these, I have to say, were also from Home Sense, and I think they're originally heels, but they're really comfy. They've travelled with us a couple of houses now. And these are very old cushions, which somehow just all the things started to work. The table, I love this table. And I think the reason I love this table is because it's really battered. And sometimes that's the nicest furniture. And if tables could talk, I think this one could tell a lot of stories. So I found it in Ardingly Antiques Fair, and I think it's from Garden Trading originally, and would have been a garden table and would have been really expensive. And they'd obviously left it out somehow, and I think originally it was just this sort of silvery colour, and then the patina has happened as wear and tear, and it's sort of peeled off. So it almost looks like polished concrete, and there's pen on it, and there's food on it, and there's all sorts of things on it. But the wear and tear, I think, gives it a really, there's even a big crack going down the middle of it, but it gives a really lovely feel. And we wanted a really big table that could fit everybody because we're a blended family. And I can actually get at least 4 more people on this as well. So it's really good. And it's one of those tables that's just kind of got better as it's got older. And I don't mind the fact that there's pen and crayon and whatever. And it looks like it's really heavy, but this is hollow inside, so it's quite, so you could move it out into the garden at some point and it get all more battered, but I think that's sort of the nice feel to it. And then one of the things I loved about this kitchen that were already here were these doors. They're old school doors, and if you look, they're actually, these are 2 doors facing the same direction, but they've made it sliding. And then we've got them over there going to the snug. But what's nice about it is that when you have a dinner party, which I don't have that often, but when you do, you can kind of close it off, and then this can become another sort of prep area, so you don't have to have everything up there. And you've got the fridge and all the, I'll talk about all the bits I don't like looking at. I can hide them away, and you've got the dog beds, and then you can close them off. But it also just gives a bit more of a feature to the house, because the house is actually a new house. And with these reclaimed pieces, it just adds a bit more character and sort of kind of, I don't know, a bit of rustic, and sort of tells again another story. I'd love to know what school they were from. And then they kind of frame the two sort of comfy chairs. And again, I got these from HomeSense. And I think it's interesting because I go on about it, but it's quite a difficult place to shop with. It can be quite overwhelming. But then at the same time, if you persevere, you can find some real gems. And these swivel. So someone can be cooking up there and then you can swivel round and talk. And actually the boys sit here a lot on their phones while I'm talking or chatting or cooking or whatever. And and Dave likes to sit at that one and kind of look out and do his work. So it's really nice. And then obviously the dogs find them very accessible. This is Gracie, I mean, you know, very accessible for hugs and everything like that. But they don't actually jump on them because I think they're scared by the fact that they swivel and, and jump on them. So they're not big enough for dog beds, whereas some really nice, lovely furniture, which is quite big in the house, have become very glorified dog beds. And so what I don't think people have seen before is if you come through this bit, there's, this is kind of, I suppose this is the pantry, and it's got a really nice floor, which we inherited with the house. Didn't put the floor in, but it's just a sort of floor that I would have put down. I like having little lamps everywhere. This one's been unplugged, I think, because of the toasty machine. But I collect things. I'm going off on a tangent here, but I collect things. And one of the things I collect are cake stands. I don't really like cake. But I like cake stands, and with Christmas and Easter and things like that, they're a nice way of displaying things like Easter eggs or Christmas chocolates, and they can make really nice sort of features on tables, displays and things like that. So I collect all sorts of things. And then also they're my novelty ceramics, which I might do a whole episode on novelty ceramics because I'm obsessed. And some people think they're hideous, but and I do sometimes as well, but I still like them. This is my corn jug and cups. Apparently they're for corn chowder, which I don't think I've ever made or will ever make, because I don't think anybody in the family, they're quite dusty as well, but would drink. But I think they're quite nice for something like water and hot chocolate. But anyway, no one's ever used them. But I just like the colours because they're yellow, and I think they're funny. And much like my garlic bread dish for one and my sweet corn dish for one, they're totally impractical. But why does everything have to be practical? That's the fridge, that's self-explanatory. And then this bit is probably like part of the kitchen that it's almost like I have a little cafe here. Because something I've not talked about is that I'm sort of machine phobic, in the sense I don't like looking at them. But this is a coffee machine. I don't drink coffee, but I bought it as a present from my husband, and I can use it because it's got a touch screen and it's very noisy. And then air fryer, quite essential with 4 boys. Toasty maker is down there. That was a lockdown present from my mother, which I have to say is probably the best present, one of the best presents she's ever given me, because now they could just eat toasties. And in the lockdown, when it was trying to homeschool 4 kids, that was all they really ate, because it was very, that's a toasty maker. And when people say, what's it like raising 4 boys? I'd say it's very smelly, very messy. It's lovely, but the essentials are sock baskets, toasty maker and scented candles. And then you're kind of okay. So I think I'm going to put a little curtain there at some point to hide those even more. But my point about sort of machines is I don't think they take up a lot of space on counter space when you want to prep and everything. So if you can make a little room into like a sort of pantry area and hide all the machines, you don't look at them. And also things like this. I think that's the bread maker. You'll buy and never use, so there's no point having it on the counter in the kitchen. And then this is a brass pole. I've got a thing about hanging saucepans. I really like it. And if there was more space on the walls in the kitchen, other than my baskets, I'd probably hang the saucepans. But I buy these butcher's hooks from Amazon. The poles tend to be quite expensive, but you could use a curtain pole. as long as you've got the right fixing in. I mean, this is still, it's got a lot of pans on it and it's taking it, so it's pretty strong. Not knowingly, saucepans can look quite pretty. And then we've got more of this brass here, which again, is easy for people to find things, rather than delve into the back of cupboards. And so it's sort of like a little cafe here. And then we've got the cereals, the microwave, and it's quite tidy. Can be more tidy than this and can be less tidy. And sometimes I think about putting a curtain here so that people don't even see that. But I don't know, it sort of works. And then this is the kitchen that we inherited. What I would like to do is paint the walls a slightly more complementary colour, which I will, I think, do with you guys. So one of the things I'm thinking of doing is painting the units as well as the walls. I want to kind of blend it more with the breakfast area, or the dining area, and make it a bit more earthy. But I'm thinking of making, another little something's just died in the candle. Thinking of making this sort of a darker colour, maybe like a dark brown, and then maybe doing these in a slightly different colour, or these sort of colour drenched in the same colour as the wall. And that's something I want to explore. But it is quite a commitment, because painting a kitchen can be really disruptive. Also, I've got loads of things on the wall and there's loads of clutter everywhere. So it's finding the time to do that. So that's one of my sort of, when you are thinking about decorating a room, schedule it in for when not everybody's around, because it always takes longer, especially if you're doing things like kitchen units, because you've got to sand them and wash them and they're going to have lots of grease on them and everything like that. And now let me show you one of my other favourite rooms in the house, sorry Gracie, which is the snug. So this is the snug, good for snuggling. And this room, much like the kitchen, I think is sort of the heart of the home as well. Although it's not a big room at all, it's where we all congregate and watch telly together. There are some little, there's a telly in the den and we've got one in our bedroom, but it's sort of where everybody kind of comes and hangs out. And I guess because it's off the kitchen, so when with the doors, it's got the sliding school doors like in the pantry, so you can have it completely separate and actually you don't hear the TV through them, or you can have them open and then it's like one big sort of extended kitchen. And we had this sofa already. In our last house, it used to look a lot cleaner before it was in a snug. And it's made by the Hastings Sofa Company, which are a really lovely local upholstery company. And interestingly, they're quite an old company and they make sofas for a lot of the big brands like Maker and Son and Sofa, what's it called? Sofa and Sofa. I mean, all the big people who make sofas, they're one of the factories that they use. And then they have their own sofas as well, which is what this is. And we bought this in our old house because there's so many of us. So it's like, it's not going to fit in everybody's house. And it just fitted in here amazingly on this wall. And it used to look a lot cleaner, but it's so comfortable. And I keep adding cushions and I keep adding throws, and you can take the covers off and wash them. But it's one way of updating this room is just changing the cushions, which I occasionally get a couple of new cushion covers and change them. But the thing about this room is I've never properly decorated it. And it was this colour when we moved in. And I did this really weird, lazy thing of going, I need to repaint it because there was loads of marks where the previous owners had pictures and they'd taken the wall lights that were originally here. And so they're just wires. And then we had to kind of fill it in. And then I chose these wall lights from Jim Lawrence, which I've used a lot of my projects. They're actually bathroom lights, but because they've got the glass going all the way around. But I like the fact that they look almost like ship lights. And I feel like this room sort of feels a bit like a cabin with the paneling, and it's low ceilinged and it's cozy. So I chose those lights. But then I did this really weird thing where I painted the room the same colour that it already was. And I think it was just because we'd moved house and I was so overwhelmed. And I thought, that's a nice colour, but it's really dirty and it's got loads of marks on the previous pictures. So we'll just repaint it the same colour. And I texted the previous owner and I said, what colour is the snug? And they said, I think it's called Fossil by Dulux. I was like, great. I'm just going to go buy some Fossil from Dulux and repaint it the same colour. And they'd actually there's a bathroom above here. They'd had a leak before, which had a big mark. So we had that replastered, and then I just painted the ceiling white. But I never actually sort of designed the room. I just shoved the sofa in, went, oh, that will fit. There was no blind. I had some fabric left over, so my friend made the blind, and then that was it. And I was like, the other day I was saying, I'd really like to do up the snug. So this is one of the rooms I'm going to do, and I have quite a bold scheme for it. And I might even paint the ceiling. And it seems mad repainting it when I painted it before, but that was a couple of years ago. And the other thing in here is just behind you, there is a wall of pictures. And they're basically all the pictures that we don't know where to hang anywhere else in the house. So it's quite a mishmash. And I've got my sort of more antique-y, you can kind of tell which are mine and which are Dave's. Mine are sort of the little antique-y, sort of vintage finds, sometimes a bit kitsch, sometimes a bit pretty. And then Dave's are the music posters, because he used to work in the music industry. And I just shoved them all in together. And actually there's an F on the wall because there was a hook there, and I just put an F up, which seems quite sort of egotistical and random, but it's just to hide a hook. And I just happened, and my son's name begins with F as well, so it's not my F, it was his F. But people are like, why have you got your initials on the wall? And I didn't mean it's lit like that. So this is going to be this is going to be the first room that I'm going to redo and give an uplift. And you might not like the colour that I'm going for, but I think it's going to look really cool. So I hope you've enjoyed this first episode. Join me next time, where I'm going to start with the snug redecoration. I'm going to be choosing the paint colour and talking you through that and what else I'm going to be doing in there, as well as possibly looking for the colour for the kitchen cabinets, because I want that to tie in well with the snug. And I'm going to be taking you on a couple of my events that I have coming up. And also look out for the first of Frankie's fixes. So please join me and subscribe here.